Welcome to OOTO, the out-of-the-office investigation into personal mental health actualization, focusing on truth, meaning, and context. I'm your host, Leo, focusing on the mechanics of human psychology. And I'm Silas, mapping the physiological data behind those behavioral systems. Today, we are testing a specific hypothesis. Truth is rarely treated as a biological metric. We relegate it to philosophical debates or moral codes. But a look at the data shows that engaging with objective reality is a strict physiological requirement for the human system to function. Francis Bacon observed this centuries ago. He noted that minds filled with vain opinions, false valuations, and lies degrade into poor, shrunken things. The result is a physical state of melancholy and indisposition. To understand how a false belief translates into a physical symptom, we have to connect the classical ontology of Aristotle to modern quantum contextualism, specifically the work of philosopher of physics Elise Kroll. By mapping those concepts to modern neurobiology, we arrive at a clear mechanism. Abstract concepts like truth and meaning act as direct regulatory inputs that alter our physical health systems. This brings us to a pervasive modern error, the idea of my truth. Society promotes the assumption that subjective perception exists in a vacuum, completely insulated from physical reality. The evolutionary philosopher Herbert Spencer completely dismantled this idea. He argued that ethical truth is exactly as peremptory and exact as physical truth. The lawyer and essayist Peter Landry provides a concrete example of this. If you are walking outside and rely on a false internal model of your immediate environment, the result is instantaneous physical trauma. A nasty fall leads directly to the hospital. You cannot override gravity with a subjective feeling. The strict limits of biological survival do not negotiate with human illusions. This explains why operating on false inputs is so destructive. When a biological system ignores the objective truth of its environment, the resulting mismatch inevitably leads to systemic physiological failure. You're listening to OOTO with research by Paul Bulow, which raises the central question: how do truth, meaning, and context affect mental and physical health? To answer that, we look at quantum mechanics. Philosopher Elise Kroll explains objective truth requires understanding entanglement. We cannot cleanly separate the observer from the environment and expect an accurate reality. We are continuously interacting with our environment in real time. When you treat the mind and body as an isolated system, insulated from the external environment, you create a biological friction. That isolation triggers chronic stress and nervous system dysregulation. Recognizing our active, inescapable entanglement with the environment is the foundational requirement for cellular and mental health. So, what are the key elements for truth, meaning, and context actually doing in the body? Plato defined truth with the Greek word aletheia. For him, it wasn't a static fact you stumble across. It was a strenuous, proactive engagement. Mapping Plato's cave allegory to biology, a system fighting reality shows as cold, stressed blue zones on this thermal map. By turning toward objective truth, physiology aligns into warm, optimal states. Mirroring the Gaia hypothesis, our internal biology must synchronize with the external living network. James Lovelock compiled the evidence proving that the Earth functions as a macroorganism, constantly regulating its own biological tuning for the sake of sustaining life. Truth is the act of successfully mapping our internal biological models to that objective external reality. Can truth, meaning, and context improve mental health and relationships while supporting optimal physical performance? We turn back to Francis Bacon, who noted that clear and honest dealing is the true honor of human nature. Let's look at the metabolic cost of ignoring that. Falsehood acts as a severe cognitive load. Bacon called these winding and crooked courses. Maintaining a lie requires constant mental computation, draining your system's energy to uphold a fabricated reality. Erasing that cognitive load leaves your body with massive surplus energy. Those reserves are immediately redirected to physical recovery and improving your interactive behaviors with others. Honesty is a strictly physical energetic optimization strategy for the central nervous system. Our body's health connects to diet, sunlight, fresh air, and a clarity routine aligning our actions, words, and thoughts. This mechanism forces our biological state out of a blurry quantum superposition. When your daily routines align with environmental reality, your health actualizes. Aligning your thoughts, words, and actions creates the absolute physical baseline required for medical recovery and peak performance. You cannot out-medicate a misaligned life. Abstract truth has zero medical value until it is operationalized through physical actions and environmental integration. You're listening to OOTO with research by Paul Bulow. Understanding truth, meaning, context relates to making healthy daily choices for diet, interactive behaviors, and medical care is critical to our physical and mental health and recovery from illness. Silas understood this alignment perfectly. He categorized truth and falsehood as being in the strictest sense. It is an ontological state of existence, not just a moral preference. Truth, meaning, context aligns our bodies to a healthy environment for both mental and physical success. Truth, meaning, context can be linked to an overall healthy outlook and peaceful life. Plato called this state eudaimonia. It is the baseline physiological result of an internal model that perfectly maps to the external environment, eliminating the metabolic friction of error. Quantum mechanics and ancient philosophy converge on a single mechanical requirement. Because we are entangled with our environment, maintaining a false internal model creates a continuous error signal in our nervous system. Alignment is the only way to reduce the energy cost of survival. Grave, serious. But the inverse is also true. A society that relies on self-importance, vain opinions, and false valuations invites physical misery. Ignoring exact ethical and physical truths degrades the individual and the network simultaneously. Thank you for joining us on this out-of-the-office investigation. I'm Leo, and I'm Silas. Operating with an accurate map of reality is a functional necessity. Truth is the physical engine that drives human survival and actualization.